Did you know that actually all of us experience some sort of intrusive negative thoughts? And all of us, we have certain behaviors, certain habits that we like to complete, that they give us some sort of comfort. However, people who experience OCD, their intrusive thoughts and also their compulsions, they are related to a lot of stress, to a lot of anxiety. Hi, my name is Patricia. I'm a counseling psychologist registered with HCPC in the UK. And in today's video, I'm gonna go through different types of obsessions, presenting that with different examples. OCD obsessions, they can have different forms. One of them, it is thoughts and questions. So, for example, it could be, did I close the door? What if I just hit someone on the road while driving to work? Then we can have images, and normally they're going to be images of maybe doing something which is immoral or something which is not appropriate. So maybe images of hurting a baby. And we also can have urges, and they could be urges to maybe say something or do something. So it could be urge maybe to say something which is not appropriate, maybe in a gathering of people, in a place of worship. And in order for us to differentiate someone who suffers from OCD from someone who's maybe temporarily more distressed, we would say that those obsessions, images, different obsessive behaviors, they need to have a quality of being unwanted, of causing a lot of distress. They're gonna be normally against your morals, your values. And they're gonna be persistent throughout the day, so they will have to last more than 1 hour every day. And unfortunately, in OCD, one of the most common form of obsessions that people they have, the obsessions that they have some violent content. And why I'm saying unfortunately, because those obsessions, they create a lot of guilt in people, and they just feel like there's something really unacceptable about them. And those obsessions, they cause them enormous amount of distress and, like I said, guilt and self-blame. And those obsessions, they can be in the form of images. So people, they might have images of doing something harmful, maybe to their family members. So maybe images of stabbing their family members. So maybe if the mother, she has a baby, she will maybe have an urge to throw the baby on the floor from the changing table. And another form of obsessions with the violent content, it is having doubts. And here people, they will have doubts whether they cause some harm. And maybe they will start, so when maybe someone is driving to work, when they arrive at work, they will start having these doubts like whether they maybe hit someone while they were driving. And it might go actually to the extent where someone will actually call police, and they will tell them that, look, I was driving from this point to that point, and I feel like there's a possibility that I might have caused an accident, I might have hit a pedestrian. So yes, it is really distressing for people to have those kind of obsessions. And also it might be quite distressing for the family members to constantly reassure the person who suffers from OCD that actually they haven't caused the harm. And then we have also obsessions which are with sexual content. And again, they can create a lot of distress for someone. So again, we can have thoughts or images with the sexual content that for the person it would be immoral, inappropriate. They're gonna be perhaps thoughts and images that they will go against someone's values. The next one, it is about having urges to engage in some sexual activity that is, again, maybe not appropriate, that goes against the values of the person. So for instance, someone might have urges to maybe touch someone inappropriately on the street. So that might actually lead to people being really afraid actually going outside. And in context of the obsessions with sexual content, we have also doubts. So people that might have doubts whether maybe they committed some sexual offense or some sexual activity that again will be immoral, not appropriate, or maybe even against the law. So maybe a mother, while changing a baby, after that she will have a doubt whether she become maybe aroused by her baby. And again, that can cause a lot of distress, a lot of problems, because the mom, she might then try to avoid changing the baby nappy, and maybe she will try seeking help from other family members. And then we have also obsessions in context of the religion. So again, people, they can have thoughts or images that are in context of the religion, but they will be again against your morals, against your values, and they will be against your religious beliefs. So people, they might have maybe images of seeing religious figures engaged in maybe some sexual inappropriate act. Or maybe people, they will have just thoughts about, I'm gonna go hell, God, he doesn't love me. Another obsession in context of the religion, it could be having the urge to say something inappropriate in maybe some sort of gathering, maybe in a church or maybe in a mosque. People also, they might have doubts whether maybe they committed some sin, and then they will also question that whether God, he's gonna forgive them for that. And in addition, in context of the religion, people, they might have doubts as to whether they maybe prayed in a correct way, whether they've completed some rituals in a correct way. And that might lead to people maybe completing certain rituals ongoingly for a really long time. So for instance, Muslims, they need to wash themselves in a certain way before they're gonna start praying. So someone might wash themselves once, but they might start having doubts whether they did it correctly, and then they might start worrying that maybe God's not gonna accept their prayer, so they will start washing again and again until they're gonna feel the satisfaction that actually they did it right. This is a very generic classification of obsessions, but everyone, they will have their unique ways of completing their rituals. They will have very unique thoughts and questions and very unique obsessions. But we also know from the research that actually the most common obsessions that people have, that in context of contamination and also in context of having doubts as to whether maybe they've completed certain activity in a correct way. And the second most common obsession is the obsession in context of harm. So people questioning whether they've committed certain crime, for instance. And actually the least common obsessions are in context of religion, exactness, the symmetry. But what is really common about all these obsessions? That once people, they engage with their obsessions, with their rituals, with their reassurance seeking, temporarily feel certain relief of the anxiety. So they feel that satisfaction, and very often they will just describe this feeling as that right feeling. So once they feel right, they can stop the compulsion, they can stop their thinking, they can stop the ritual. But what happens is, by always engaging with those different compulsions, with those different rituals, you never give yourself a chance to know how does it feel when you don't complete the obsession. You never give yourself a chance to know that actually, if you don't complete the ritual, initially the anxiety will be very uncomfortable, but eventually the anxiety will drop itself down, because that's what happens with all the emotions. Even if we think about positive emotions, so if you will think about something that happened to you that made you happy, so maybe 5 minutes into that experience you felt really, really happy, it was really intense happiness, but maybe 1 hour later that happiness dropped, and then if you will think 5 hours later, the next day, that happiness definitely decreased. And that is exactly what happens with other emotions, whether they are positive or negative, they go itself down. And then the other thing as well, that by always engaging with your rituals, your neutralizing or canceling or avoidance, you never give yourself a chance as well to see what happens when you don't engage with those activities, with those behaviors, with those obsessive thinking patterns. For instance, if you're not gonna tap the table 4 times after having the intrusive negative thought, nothing actually will happen to your family. But I think it's also really important to acknowledge that by not having the right support network around you, by not having a structured plan of how to break off that vicious cycle, it is definitely a difficult task to do. If you found this video helpful, and maybe if that's your first time visiting this channel, then please subscribe, and also make sure you're gonna hit the notification bell, so every time if I upload any of these videos, then you get notified so you don't miss out on any of this really interesting material. So I'm gonna see you in the next one then. Bye!